All right, everyone, we are going to get started. I'm Dr. David Glassner, Superintendent of the Shaker Heights City School District. Thank you so much for being here today. We have some guests with us, some partners really with us today. Abby Ranieri and Leanne Andrisco from GPD, who are going to be sharing some of their work. We do have a slightly smaller group of attendees or participants today than we've had in the past, which is totally fine, but we will make sure, as always, to open up the floor for questions, comments, and thoughts a little bit later in the webinar. Just to set the stage for today and give a little bit of context, our main focus for today is really related to the Ludlow renovation. But before we get to that, I did want to give a brief update related to the renovation process for the rest of our K through 8 buildings. We just recently officially hired GPD as our design and architecture firm, along with the Madison Group, to serve as the architect and design firm for the master facilities project. We also very recently, just hired Gilbane as the construction firm for the master facilities plan. So these are for the K through 8 buildings outside of Ludlow. And so GPD, Gilbane, and Madison are all working together now to develop a revised timeline as it relates to design, engagement, and construction. Not necessarily all in that order, but that is what is currently happening right now. And really, GPD, Gilbane, we're fortunate that they are already very familiar with each other. They've worked with the district and are working on the Ludlow project already. But obviously, there are a lot of details that still need to be hammered out around that timeline and around that schedule. So that's really the work that's happening related to the master facilities plan. I'm going to pivot a little bit. With Ludlow, the Ludlow School building, we are much farther along in the process. We expect renovations to begin on the Ludlow School building later this summer, which we're very excited about. And we invited GPD here, representatives of the GPD team, who are also the architect and design firm for the Ludlow School building. We invited them here today just to share some updates as it relates to the building renovations and specifically the site plan, and to continue to get feedback, comments, and questions as it relates to that process. So with that, I will turn it over to Abby and Leanne. Please feel free to introduce yourselves further, and then share some of the information as it relates to Ludlow, and then we'll open up the chat for questions and comments. Thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having both of us. My name is Leanne Andrisco. I am an architect at GPD Group. Abby is with me. I'm also a resident of Shaker Heights, which is really exciting. Abby, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure, yeah. My name's Abby Ranieri. I serve as the manager of planning and design for K-12 schools at GPD Group. Happy to be here.
So I'm going to present my screen and show you a little bit of what we've been doing at Ludlow. We've really enjoyed the process at Ludlow, and we look forward to continuing to develop a lot of the master plan pieces as we go along. So we've been working on Ludlow since about last summer is when we were onboarded, and we've done quite a bit of work so far. Walk you through a little bit of the design process. So it really starts with the orientation, engagement, visioning piece. We've had biweekly meetings with the district and the core team, regular updates with the Board of Education, the teachers giving feedback, design charrettes, and we wrapped up our schematic design in early spring. We are actually currently wrapping up now our design development process, where we are firming up a lot more of our details in our construction documents, really engaging our interiors team, and we're really looking forward to getting that probably wrapped up in the next week or so and getting that into Gilbane's hands to start to get the estimate put together to make sure that we're still on budget. Once that's complete, we'll start moving into our construction documents process. That is looking to wrap up at probably the end of summer and then get into construction starting in summer, early fall. And then we are going to be constructing it throughout the year, and it'll be ready for next school year. Project update, sort of where we've been. In early January, late January, we had an eco charrette where we had a consultant on board and we talked about our goal here to pursue LEED Silver. So we went over all of the credits, all of the goals with the school district and the community, and really put together a solid, firm plan of path forward to hit that LEED Silver goal. We also had a teacher workshop in April, which was a lot of fun. We have pretty standard classrooms and we gave the teachers a kit of parts on how they would like to see their classrooms function and what furniture pieces that they would like to see, and really having an in-depth discussion for both the inside of the building and the outside. If they need any outdoor classroom space, playground information. So we got some really, really good feedback and it was a lot of fun to meet with the teachers. We've met with them a few times to get some really valuable feedback. We've also been meeting regularly with the community association, with the Ludlow Community Association, getting feedback for some of the outdoor pieces of the building and some pieces that they'll also be using in the building for their community functions. Oops.
Okay, so we wanted to show you kind of how the exterior improvements have been developing. So this was an early kind of diagrammatic site plan that has been presented in some board updates. So you may have seen it if you've been kind of following along there at all. But it just kind of shows that we're really focusing a lot of our attention on what's happening within the walls of that building, as far as renovating and attention on the roof, attention on the building envelope, and getting the educational spaces ready on the inside. Now on the outside, we're trying to focus on balancing the needs for pickup and drop off and parking with the goals for kind of preserving a good amount of green space on the site. We also have been having a lot of conversations about outdoor recreation space and community use space. So you can see the area where there's just kind of a simplified soccer field and a ball field shown. There's really no scope of work planned on that portion of the site. In fact, the construction fence will kind of go between the parking lot and that green space. And then this document shows kind of some placeholders of where the playgrounds will be located. But if you look at the colored arrows, you can kind of see there's a loop that is existing that comes off of Ludlow that would be maintained for some of the van and or some limited bus drop off that would happen at the school. And then the red dashed lines represent a loop that will be created for parent drop off. So the drop off and secure entry to the building actually will be on the back side where Leanne's got her mouse right now. And so the students will hop right out of the passenger side doors of the cars, and teachers can kind of help students get themselves into the building for the day. Throughout the day, that will also be the single secure point of entry for the building, and visitors will have to be essentially buzzed into a secure vestibule and check in at the receptions. So a much needed improvement to safety and security that'll come along with this project as well. So this was, again, a lot of things on this are kind of placeholders. This switches to more of a sketchy kind of design progress plan that we have shared out recently to a few groups. We changed the orientation on you slightly. So whereas Ludlow was kind of going straight across the top of the page earlier, you can see Ludlow is now kind of on the right side, Ludlow Road. The orange/red shape is the building. And you can see there's a portion of it we're highlighting, which is where the gymnasium's located. And for community use, that vestibule, that secure vestibule that I just mentioned, will also be available to for after hours use if the community should choose to sign out that space for meetings and other types of functions in the gym, they can pop right into the gym from that secure entry, and the rest of the building can kind of remain secure. Some of the things you're seeing represented on this progress plan, we're starting to think about landscaping a little bit more. We were able to have a landscape focused meeting with a few community stakeholders to kind of start talking about what the areas that we're going to be impacting might look like. There's already a lot of nice, mature, and dense tree cover around the streets that we'll be able to maintain. And then we are proposing some additional new trees. You can see potentially between the parking area and the soccer field, and then a couple around the perimeter of the building. We've had a lot of conversation about what the playground area wants to look like. And so you can see there's more of an organic shaped playground. We've been talking about the exterior path of that being available for students to kind of ride bikes, trikes, push some of the push toys that go along with the pre-K curriculum and gross motor needs. So we'll be able to have that feature. And then that'll all be securely gated off so that the students can access that right outside the building. We will have playground equipment that is focused for the youngest pre-K students, but we also are committed to, providing some pieces that might be appropriate for the kids in the neighborhood, potentially a couple, older students. You can see some of our inspiration images over on the left that we've been referencing as far as mixing landscaping with play equipment. And also there's a bit of a grade change. So the sidewalk level and the playground level, you'll step up to the playground from the sidewalk. So we're trying to think of creative ways that we can use retaining features and earth mounding to create maybe some spaces where you could, stop and sit along that retaining wall and start to create some, nice zones between the sidewalk and the playground as well. The fence, that whole area will be fenced off. And then through some conversations with the teachers, we've started to think about where we could develop some spaces for outdoor classroom use. So we're sort of gesturing, maybe Leanne can point to, one end of the playground. Does that start to have a little area where a classroom of kids could kind of sit down and gather near a tree and have some outdoor education opportunities as well? We're still going through the process of reviewing what we have proposed with the city for approvals. In fact, that's what we're doing right now. So again, we're trying to balance necessary number of parking spaces without providing a ton of parking. We're trying to find like a nice balance to leave the site with as many amenities as possible, but it's also definitely a priority to have safe and secure drop-off areas, spaces for visitors, spaces on site for staff members that might be going to other buildings throughout the day. So we're working on striking that balance right now. These are just some early concept renderings. We've studied and continue to study what the entry to the back of the building will look like. So in order to make that secure entry, we did need to create a small building addition. Right now, if you walk into the building, like most buildings of this time, you enter into the building and then you have to walk up a set of stairs to get to the main level. So we need to make the building accessible, ADA accessible. So to negotiate those level changes, we created a small vestibule that allows us to get folks into the building at the right and proper level. And again, get folks into a secure vestibule before they're in the main portion of the building. So this kind of shows that back view. The volume to the right with the taller windows is the gymnasium. And then the little kind of smaller volume in the corner is the proposed building addition. There are just some different views of it. There'll be a ramp, obviously, to get folks from sidewalk level up to the building. And this is where the parents will be able to drop students off right at that main entry point. And then this would be a view looking straight from the parking lot. So you can kind of understand the existing building extents and then where we're proposing the main entry addition. So we wanted to just share, this is a tool we use to scan the building called Matterport. So it's kind of does a lot of things for us. It allows us to be in the building even when we're not physically in the building. It does a really good job of kind of mapping existing conditions. And we can also get some, unofficial measurements and things out of that as a tool. But one of the opportunities we really love about this historic building is while you had the opportunity to redo Fernway several years ago, due to that being the result of a fire, there was some of those detail pieces that weren't able to be saved. And here we have the opportunity to try to look at what materials and what things that we want to maintain and, that we think are really wonderful kind of historic moments in the building. So you can kind of see what it looks like now in the corridors. And then these show some of the typical classrooms. Again, we're reconfiguring a lot of the walls so that the classrooms kind of fit the right sizes for preschool, but we are definitely looking for every opportunity to expose wood floors were there in good condition, and you can just see some of the kind of existing conditions, like the image in the center. That's obviously been renovated a lot over time and will, maybe not a good candidate for keeping some of that stuff. These images are the gymnasium and the assembly areas, which have some really wonderful details that remain from the existing building. So you can just kind of see the condition that they're in now. Our next steps are really to continue the approval process. We've gotten a lot of good feedback again from the Ludlow Community Association and some really great input from the teachers about furniture and things that they're going to need inside their classrooms. So our focus now is really on getting our approvals through the city, and then we'll move into our kind of most detailed documentation phase, where we'll be wrapping up our documents and preparing them for bidding in the early fall. So that concludes our update of kind of where we are and what we're intending to do over on the Ludlow campus.
Before we move to opening the chat for questions and comments, I just wanted to thank Abby and Leanne, but also GPD and Gilbane. Generally speaking, we're very fortunate that GPD, Gilbane, Madison are all partners with the district and are really working not just with district administrators. You saw some pictures of GPD working with district staff, families, and students throughout this process as this process evolves. So big thank you to the team. I know Abby and Leanne are representative of a team of others on the team as well, but really just wanted to thank them for all of their work thus far. And with that, we will open up the chat function so folks can ask any questions or comments. And Kristen Cash, our communication specialist, is joining us as well to help moderate any questions or comments that come in.
Yes, the chat is available. You talked a little bit about LEED Silver. Can you get it into just briefly kind of what that means and what that looks like for our district?
I can. So LEED is it's a system of ratings for sustainability that was created by the USGBC, or the US Green Building Council. And what it does is it ranks your sustainability measures in a system of, you can just get certified, which is really basis level. You can do bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. And really the basis of silver is what the OFCC or the state actually requires for new projects. And so that's what we'll be doing in the new master plan documents. And so that really measures the level of sustainability features that we're going to have. So it ranges anywhere from having electric car parking on site and having charging available to the amount of insulation that you need to put in your building. It dictates some of the open green space that's required. You get a lot of points for for walkability and transportation. And so given that this is really a more urban site, we do get a lot of points for those pieces. But really it's a measure of sustainability based on the US Green Building Council's guidelines.
I will add, just to that point, the LEED framework does provide us with a lot of very specific guidance as it relates to the renovation of Ludlow and our other school buildings. We have also been working towards identifying some maybe broader goals for the district in general, and as it relates to the master facilities plan, specifically focused on sustainability. Some members of our facilities advisory committee have been a part of that process, along with other folks in our community who have some experience or expertise as it relates to sustainability and school districts. So that's kind of a process that's happening concurrently with the renovation planning for our school buildings.
One more here, and you may or may not be able to speak to it, but there have been some questions raised about how the new preschool building will impact traffic and kind of parking in the neighborhood. Are you able to talk a little bit about that, or are we still kind of early in the design for that?
Well, as far as the impact of the preschool, based on what the program that's been in place in the neighborhood for the last, for the recent past, there'll be 12 classrooms available for use as preschool classrooms. So whether those become programmed with, full day programs or half day programs, I believe is still kind of being developed. So there's a potential for, 12 classrooms full of preschoolers to kind of be in session at one time, which might look like, 200, students potentially, potentially more. So the traffic to the site will definitely increase from what was seen with the alternative program that's been housed there. So that's why we really focused on trying to get as many cars off the street during the drop-off process as possible and create a loop that maybe could even, start to stack as students are dropped off. You'll also see, based on the site, while trying to maintain some of the community functions, there is a give and take and a balance of what we are able to kind of stack and provide on site. So we know that there'll be an increase in traffic, and that's why we kind of tried to provide a drop-off area on site.
Yeah, I think, the question posed does speak to kind of the balance that we're trying to achieve, just in terms of the different needs for the site, both in terms of green space, playground space, parking for staff and visitors, bus loop, or drop off and pickup loop. So there are definitely a lot of different factors that we are considering as we move ahead with that part of the design process. Kristen, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, my button didn't click. I think that is it for the questions on our end.
We appreciate folks who participated today and joined the webinar. As always, this webinar will be posted to our facilities site page so that folks who want to watch it afterwards can. And we will continue to keep our community members up to date as we make progress with our Ludlow renovations and the rest of the master facilities plan.
Yes, and just to point out, Dr. Glasner, we will move to a monthly webinar throughout the summer months. So our next webinar will be coming up in late June, and we will be sure to send out an email with a link to that.
Fantastic. Thank you, Abby and Leanne, for joining. Much appreciated.
Thanks for inviting us.
Thanks for having us.
Have a great day, everyone.